the Kell Brook situation. I've been watching a lot of fans on Facebook and Instagram pretty much go at it about this topic about who had the better Kell Brook. And we kind of know something. Since I'm a Terrence Crawford fan, my boy Mine's a Earl Spence fan. We don't get about a difference of perspective when it comes to what Terrence Crawford said about the situation.
As far as what I said that I had a problem with was the fact that he said that he was drained down to 147 because he had to come back down, which is true. He went up to fight Triple G at 160 and he came back down to 147. So he was drained, but he did fight 9 months later. But still, the next fight going back, 8 months,
a little bit over 8 months.
Okay, 8 months. So I mean, that still was tough. The problem I have with that is he also did the same thing with Terrence Crawford. I mean, because his 3 fights before fighting Terrence Crawford was at 154 pounds. You can look it up on BoxRec. I mean, I think he came in at 153 2 times and 152 on another weigh-in. So he was right at the junior welterweight limit of 154. So I kind of have a problem with that tape. As far as him saying that he had the better version, I mean, it's debatable. I mean, we'll find out sooner or later who had the better version. I would say Spence had the better version, but I think they both had a damaged version of Kell Brook. I think, you know what I'm saying? I don't think, like I said, because he broke the other eye socket, but the fact of the matter is, psychologically, after breaking the other eye socket and going through what he went through with Triple G, that had to take some wear and tear on him. And then the fight, Bud 3 years later, he put his head no punch resistance. Like, he was just a share of himself. So I don't think he was his full self with either boxer. But I think that he was a better version of himself when he fought against Earl Spence, because it was 3 years prior. He only had 1 loss. And also, I think that he had to go to Sheffield. He had to go actually to his hometown and fight the guy that beat him. So I think it was a way more tougher fight for him than what Terrence Crawford had to deal with. But I mean, I give them both credit for the win, because Kell Brook still is a tough guy. He's still strong. I just think that he just got broken out of Triple G. But I still give both fighters credit for the win.
I disagree with a lot what you said. I'm gonna be honest. Well, I agree with a lot of it though. I'm not a super biased. You know what I'm saying? I agree that Earl Spence had a tougher task. He had to fight Kell Brook in his own backyard. I give any fighter praise for doing that. When you got to go, especially going across the other part of the world, when you know, I do give Spence the credit for stopping him. You know, because he really had no choice, in my honest opinion, because the fight was that close where a robbery could have happened. Or it might have even been a robbery. It could have been a clean. It all depends on how Kell Brook would have finished the fight, if his eye would have stood up. So yeah, I agree with that part, that Earl Spence had a tougher task. As far as who had the better Kell Brook, I don't really like that too much, because both guys didn't get the full version of Kell Brook. To be honest, the guy who had the best Kell Brook was Sean Porter. Let's keep it 100%. And that version of Kell Brook held Sean Porter to death. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So the better version of Kell Brook, to me, like you said, it's pretty much even. It all depends on what you think. What I do disagree with is, you know what I'm saying, the punch resistance. We seen when he came, you already pretty much elaborated on how he went up in weight to fight Triple G, and then came back down in weight to 147, which is 2 weight classes. And you try to make the comparison of dropping 4 pounds from going from 152, because he said his last fight before he went down was 152. So he dropped 5 pounds to get back down to the welterweight limit months later. But what you are forgetting about is the IBF segment. Like, you can only be 10 pounds over the weight limit the night of the fight, which I'm giving credit for anybody who hold that title, because that's a hard task in itself. But Kell Brook came down from middleweight 8 months later, and fought Spence under that stipulation, under the rule of having to be 10 pounds only been allowed 10 pounds over the weight. So he can only weigh at 154. 157 at the night of the fight, which I think was what really took the toll on him at the end. Other than the eye, of course, the eye was the eye. But what I'm gonna push back on when it comes to Crawford is Crawford is a little bit capping when it comes to, you know, he's not giving Earl credit per se for the win. He pretty much saying that Earl, you know, had an easier version of him. Well, I don't really agree with that. I think Earl, like you said, Earl had the harder task. But I will say that the Kell Brook that fought both those guys took a fight. It was bad promotions. I'm gonna say that it was bad promotion. He took a fight. from Triple G he shouldn't took. I'm gonna be honest. Eddie Hearn put him in with Triple G. He shouldn't have took that motherfucking fight. And then him having to fight Errol Spence was a stipulation because I can't hear you, bro.
I'm saying that money was talking.
Oh yeah. That money was talking. Yeah, the money was talking. And plus, he thought he could beat Triple G. He was giving Triple G that work in the beginning.
You really think he could beat Triple G?
I think he thought he could. The way he fought him in the first 2 or 3 rounds, he was putting in. He was putting in that work on Triple G. I think he went in there. He kind of went in with the same game plan that Canelo went in there with. You come to the monster. Like don't try to back up from him. You know, you bring it to him. He took that. He brought it to Triple G. So I honestly thought he could win. I'm gonna be honest. But back to what I was saying. But the IBF they gave him Errol Spence was a mandatory, and for him to keep his belt at welterweight after fighting the middleweight, he had to either fight Errol Spence or he had to drop the belts. In my opinion, full service now, watching what we see now, he should have dropped the belt. He should have came back later on and fought Earl, and then hopefully he got that whatever his belt came to him. Because the way he came in the fight, thinking he can beat Earl as well, but you could tell he was a shell of himself at that point. But this is my part I'm gonna get the most slack for, and then I'm gonna get back to you. The part I'll probably get most slack for is to all the fans who's saying that he had a washed up Kell Brook and he was punch resistance was down and all that shit. I want to hear that shit. When you gotta give somebody some type of credit for the way somebody gets stopped. When he got hit by Crawford, he didn't know what happened. He was pretty much in his corner asking them what happened. You know what I'm saying? Asking them what did he catch him with a shot? What the fuck? That is the power of a person who can hit you that clean and have you unaware of your surroundings. He pretty much out on his feet. He took a beating from Earl, which is how most Earl gets all his stoppages, just the beating, the overall wear and tear of it. So the way that it'd been different, I would agree with people when they said, yeah, his punch resistance was down. If Crawford would have went in there and put a beating on him, and he would have quit the same way. I would have then said, yeah, his punch resistance is crazy. He can't take punishment no more. He a quitter. I would have said that. But getting hit the way he got hit and losing his faculties the way he lost his faculties, that's never happened to him before in any fight before him. So for me, I gotta get Crawford that credit. You got anyone to talk about that on that?
Man, I can see where you're coming from on that. It's pretty much your own opinion on that. Though I say it's really no set in stone fact. I would say Sean Porter, he brought it to my attention because he said it on his show that he felt his punch resistance was done. Cause he said the way he got hit, he explained it. I can't remember exactly what was his reasoning behind it, but he did say. I remember him saying something about that Triple G, he took Triple G punching so well. Even though he got stopped, he went down, he had the broken fractured bone. That Triple G caught him flush and he was able to take it. So for Terrence Crawford to hit him one time and him to be out on his feet like that, that's why I guess he was trying to say that his punch resistance was down. But
the punch you don't see, bro. It's the punch you don't see. That's what I'm saying. That's what people are sleeping on. He asked what happened when Crawford hit him. He asked what happened because he didn't see the punch at all. You can see slow ass Triple G punches. You can brace for that. You can see slow ass Errol Spence punches. You can brace for that. That punch came from an angle and from a spot to where he didn't see that motherfucker. That's what I'm saying. So I heard what Sean Porter said, but that like I'm saying that Sean Porter know better because the same shot that put Sean Porter on his ass was a shot he didn't see coming. It's different type of power, man. Go ahead. I'm listening. My bad.
Oh yeah, I mean, but I will say this for the fans getting ready for the fight, and we all do it. It's human nature. We get to looking at common opponents and start doing that triangle theory. And I want to tell people it don't always work. So if you're gonna bet on this fight or any fight, don't always depend on that triangle theory because, like I said, the number one thing people like to say in boxing, styles make fights. So don't get too caught up in that. You know what I'm saying? The same thing happened with Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? He had it out in 2 rounds, dead to the world. And it took, him 9 or 10 rounds. Cotto, he had a tough fight. And then Manny Pacquiao demolished Cotto when he got in the ring with him. Of course, there was a lot of other things with the weight stipulation and stuff. I won't get on into that. But the fact of the matter is people were doing those comparisons between how bad he beat him or he beat him in this round, he beat him in that round. And sometimes you can get somewhat of an idea of a fight. But I think the best thing to do if you want to compare fights is you try to find a fighter, like we said on our last video, a fighter that has a similar style. And how did that fighter respond to that? More than he fought Kell Brooks, he fought Sean Porter, he fought Sean Porter. if you can find a fighter that fought like Terrence Crawford and he gave Spence trouble, or a fighter that fought like Spence that gave Terrence Crawford trouble, you can take that and say, I know that Terrence Crawford can do that better than old boy, or vice versa. Errol Spence can do that better. So when I look at fights, I try to look for that. Like you said, similar fighters that got similar styles or something they did that gave that fighter trouble, rather than comparison of, I guess, they resume. Because when it come down to it, it really don't carry a lot of weight. But it is interesting though. I can't wait to hear the whole interview tonight, because as soon as it started at 7:30, I'm gonna be up there watching that one, because we're gonna have plenty to talk about next week. And I'm pretty sure he's gonna be talking that shit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he will be. I can't wait to Earl come. I can't wait to Earl. I know they're gonna have Earl on the show as well. I can't wait to see what his rebuttal is on the show.
Yeah.
And see if they're gonna call Boots the same way they had Boots call Crawford. Let me see Gilly's gonna put him on Boots.
I'm ready to hear that too, because it's been a lot of stuff about that. Leaked videos about the Boots in this situation. So I'm curious to hear that whole conversation, because they good for that Wallow and Gilly pinning a fight on the phone and pinning you on the spot. So I'm curious the whole conversation and what went down in that in that little snippet or the little audio they had between them talking on the phone.